Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Purchasing Truth. I'm Tom Hazard here with your host, Bill Stierle. And Bill, I have been breathing a sigh of relief for a couple of days. And I guess that's the way I have felt, is relieved that America has chosen Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, to lead the nation going forward. And that's, it was really nice to see the spontaneous celebrations in the streets on Saturday in so many cities across the U.S. People, seemed genuinely happy and relieved. The emotion that was coming out there was very noticeable. Although I was very concerned about coronavirus, I was glad to see everybody wearing masks pretty much. But in any case, I don't think we should talk about coronavirus today. But I thought, it's been a couple days as we're recording this from when that happened. We're into the second or the week after the people's voice has been heard. And we're seeing some very different language and communication coming out of the White House and then the president-elect's office or the Biden campaign office. And I think there's certainly a lot to talk about there. Would you agree?
I agree. I think we've got to, as a nation, move towards empathy and compassion as something that can protect our truth and our trust between each other. The hardest part for people to get in watching this show and listening to this show is that if truth and trust are messed with too much, it just divides people really quick. In a business deal, in a marriage, in a relationship with your kid, even if your kid makes a mistake once, 2, 3, 4, 5, they need to practice. They need to practice truth and trust. They need to practice that, they can make a mistake. They can be fighting for something that's not fully true, but they've got to come back to the center and have a relationship between truth and trust. Truth and trust. They've got to have that relationship. And there is a problem because people don't really actually know what's happening to them right now. And we're fighting the wrong battle. We keep trying to fight the battle to claim truth and the battle to claim trust by using facts and information. But it doesn't really fully work that way. I feel disheartened to let everybody know that we're in for a bit of a struggle because we don't have a strong relationship between truth and trust. And it's been getting worse, not just over the last 4 years, but over the last 40 years. And it doesn't mean that there hasn't been individuals over time that haven't really, with their language, hijack truth and trust to their side of the message, that hasn't done damage to the country before, but we've been able to bounce back. And the way to bounce back is to start establishing messages that restore truth and restore trust. And that's a big part of our podcast today, is how to restore it. And we're going to talk about the things that people are doing that aren't working. that's the thing that's upsetting. This is an exciting podcast, because I'm going to, and you and I are going to have some fun peeling back. How do you get back to truth and trust, and what language to use to do that? And also to help, you, the listener, and, our viewers to really kind of see that there is a formula to get back to truth and trust, instead of the way that people are talking about it right now. Anyway, so we did have an election. We did have 74, at current count, 74 million people vote one way. We had 70 million vote the other way. That means that we have a nation that is believing two separate narratives. And we've got to take a look at those two narratives and not beat up on one side or beat up on the other side, and say the following sentence: that person has been hypnotized.
That person has been hypnotized.
Because the right is saying that about the left, and the left is saying that about the right. That person that voted the other way has been hijacked, or has been, lied to, or has not been whatever. And they don't know what they're talking about globally.
Well, I can imagine conversations are not going to be pretty productive if that's what everybody thinks about everybody else.
Right. That's where we've got to get back to the center of this. We've got to figure out how to have a healthy discussion about truth.
Well, okay. So before we figure out how to have that healthy discussion, I think it's important to understand sort of what we're seeing happen on each side right now. And because actually one of the things you said a minute or two ago, I think the Trump campaign is still doing, which is they are sowing seeds of doubt and skepticism in the election,
right.
In the election results, in the process, and they're saying it was stolen, that it's being stolen from the American people. So they're ignoring the facts and have, the messaging right out of the White House from, 2:30 or 3 in the morning, the day after the election, right on till now, has been one of challenging the election, saying that there was rampant voter fraud, and that, when all the legal votes are counted, when the illegal ones are thrown out, everyone will see that Trump has been reelected, all this sort of stuff. So that's the interesting thing, is it's falling into really the same things that the Trump administration had always done to judge, label, diagnose, criticize, blame, and shame, right?
Yeah, and language is like seeds, Tom. You got to think of language as like a seed, and you just plant the seed and then you just water the crap out of it, and then you just grow that tree. You grow the tree that says stolen. You grow the tree called bad people. You grow the tree called ballots illegal. You grow the tree called we won. And that's where it's really, really troublesome, because, and that's the hard part about this, is that they've been now it doesn't mean it's not the same on both sides. I mean, that the Democrats don't do this at the same time. Barack Obama could stand on stage and say, you will not lose your doctor. You can keep your doctor. Meanwhile, the president has no control on whether the doctor is going to move from one healthcare to another healthcare to make more money. And you might be a casualty under the Affordable Care Act. Your doctor might move because he can get more money at another place. And the care isn't being left. The doctor left you.
Or that the care is there, but the doctor may not participate in your particular insurance plan, which honestly, I've experienced that myself.
Right. Yeah, my doctor left too. And can we say that Obama lied to the people? Not fully. Not fully. We can't say that. Can we say that Trump lied to the people? Not fully. And there is a scale between how much of a lie is it or how much is it not.
Yeah,
and
what we call a partial truth, right?
Right. And it's getting into the partial truth position. This is a show about language and how language is being used to hijack people's physiology. I mean, I'd like it to can it be a partisan show? Yeah. Can you and I have certain partisan beliefs about things? Are you and I extending trust right now? You and I are extending trust that there are good people counting votes and that each state and each election system of every state is doing their job. You and I are extending that trust.
Yes, that's true.
And all that has to happen to throw it off is, what about the 50 votes in Georgia that got moved? What was that story? The poll worker left and came back, and this pile that was not counted, about 50 votes, was counted and it was gone.
I didn't see that story, but I'm sure there are lots of stories or incidents like that.
There's Trump said two of them on his own. There was these votes and they were dumped into the river.
Oh yeah, I saw that one. Yeah.
Right. I mean, he's the one who is planting the belief, the seeds of languaging messaging to create the feeling of doubt and skepticism, causing one identity not to like the other identity. For a Democrat not to like a Republican and a Republican not to like a Democrat. Those shifty Democrats, those illegal bad people. It's like,
oh yeah, he always says there are something really bad is going on in Philadelphia. Is what he keeps saying. These sort of overarching statements that have nothing to do with facts, but are just to his people. It says a lot.
Here's what I'd like for you also for the listener to get a hold of. It's something bad will happen if you don't buy this now, this message now. That's exactly what my auto repair service person said to me similarly about the leaky water coming out of my radiator. Hey, listen, you got to get this fixed now because something bad's going to happen. The timing belt, it's 100,000 miles old and it's kind of cracked, and something bad's going to happen if you don't fix it now. Before I got out of there, I was out $2,700 before I got out of the damn place because I have to change all the liquid. I have to change this. The car needs an upgrade. I bought it about a year ago. It was used, and all of these things are called maintenance that needed to be fixed. But the something bad will happen if you don't buy this now message can be used with product and services that really, you don't need, and something bad won't happen. You know, if you don't buy this condo now, we only have 100 of them left. And I sold 25 of them today. By the end of next week, it is over for this location. Something bad will happen, and we'd really like for you to become a part of our community. Notice how I just went for the close on my narrative. Something bad's going to happen. And people believe the sentence, socialism will destroy the nation if Biden and Harris are in the White House. It's like, did you even see the 8 years of Barack Obama trying to slug it out with dealing with some big problems? Weren't you watching that part of it? No, I'm not watching that. And that's the problem with language is that the something bad will happen message needs to be combated with and met with as much empathy and compassion as we can muster to the person that's speaking. It seems like Kayleigh McEnany is really scared and really worried and anxious about the votes. And she's having trouble trusting the poll workers, and she's having trouble trusting the states. I wonder what the system's in place. So if any of them did get caught with votes, what would happen to them? I feel curious, what would the law say? Gosh, what the law would say is that this person would go to jail. See, that's where the media needs to be interviewing people.
Yeah, but they don't do it. They don't have the skills, or they don't care. They're just after what's the attention grabbing headline. But
it's awareness, Tom. It's awareness too.
Yeah.
It's awareness about what's going to work. They don't see whether it's 60 Minutes or whether everybody's not going to watch 60 Minutes, but the small sound bites that needs to take place across media would be, we interviewed the secretary who's in charge of elections from these states, and we reviewed with them what would happen to them if they were caught with falsifying votes. What would happen to you? Well, here's what happened to me. I go to court, this would happen, this would happen, this would happen, and they would go down all the bad things. And then they look in the camera and go like, there's no way I would ever do that, or anything like that is going to happen on my watch. That's the kind of counter messaging that needs to take place. And I'm just doing the short list of things to do. I mean, that's the one I would do right off the bat.
Well, so we see coming out of the White House, all of this language and messaging to sow seeds of doubt. Now, what we've seen from the President-elect Biden's office coming out and, speaking messages of, unity, there have been messages of restoration and healing and things like that. And the other interesting thing is you see him taking action, even though he's only president-elect and doesn't really have a lot of formal power to do anything. He's already starting, focusing on the coronavirus, which is the thing that I think most people want him to be dealing with, and announced his, team to really take this virus head on and try and restore our, economy by getting the virus under control as soon as possible. So, I mean, haven't there been some messages of unity? There've been, I think, some good messages coming out of Joe Biden from his acceptance speech and over the couple days since. But I suspect there's some missed opportunities there as well.
I appreciate that. And there is a moment of acknowledgement that he is messaging a message of unity. That hits the ears of the 74 million people like, thank you. Thank you so much for the message of unity. For the people that voted against him, the answer is, I don't trust you. You're Sleepy Joe. You're this, you're that. You're going to do this to me. You're going to do that to me. You are not authentic by giving me that message. Now, this is just me doing scary honesty right now about what their ears are hearing.
Right.
is their needs for authenticity, truth, trust, because the damage of truth and trust has been done to the candidate personally. It's the guy that screamed, the one guy in Arizona that came up and screamed behind the
Oh,
one
I
video.
remember that. Yeah.
I,
Where,
you know,
yeah.
Biden is a part of a crime family. I mean, like, how do you work 47 years in government and you have enemies swirling around you and you're the crime family and nobody brings any charges about you up until now? That's a great example of a thought message being put into that gentleman's head, that he needs empathy for the pain because he has the thought that Biden is from the crime family, because that's a projected identity away from Trump, whereas it's not to say that Trump is the crime family. Everybody from time to time, many people meet their needs at the expense of other people. That's sort of life. Sometimes you do. And the trouble is it's in that man's head to such a extent that it's like a tree that is solidly taken root in that guy's belief structure. He believes it. Because he believes it so fervently, what happens is that all that comes out of his mouth is judgment, labels, criticism, blame, judgment, criticism, blame. And there's been messages of even shame that's come out of people's mouth, projecting to on the other side. Tom, I have this chart called the levels of truth that we've talked about in the past, but it's probably a good idea to bring it out again, because the level of illusion that's taking place and the level of meaning that is being made up is being inserted into people's heads. Now, I'm not saying that the left doesn't have its set of problems, and I'd be glad and happy to take a run at those that are at the extreme on the left. And on the right, there's a list of things that have been implanted. And once the language of judgment or labels or diagnosis or criticism or blame or even shaming sentences get stuck in a person's head, then what winds up happening, they have limited ability to evaluate things well. They have limited ability to be an observer to a situation. They immediately go level 10. You're wrong. I'm right. Shut up. That's what happens when the language of criticism, blame, and shame shows up. You're wrong. I'm right. Shut up. I don't want to talk about it. And the reason why they don't want to talk about it, because it's dangerous to talk about, that one person might be right. It's really, really upsetting. So,
Well, and when that citizen, I don't know what else to describe him as, but I think it was in Nevada outside the Clark County.
Oh, Nevada. That's correct.
I think it was outside the Clark County office where they were counting votes and all that. And the Clark County, I guess, I don't know if it was supervisor, but whoever's in charge of counting the votes, right, was speaking at a press conference, and that guy comes up and yells and screams. I thought it was really wise of that guy, and I'm going to post the video in the blog post for those of you that want to see this. I thought it was wise of the person who was giving the press conference to, stop speaking, turn, look, let the guy scream, and, until he was done screaming. And then you could see in this split instant, the guy was sort of didn't know what to say next and was maybe even a little bit embarrassed or exasperated or something after he had screamed and yelled his piece. And he ran away pretty much as fast as he ran up to the mic. And then the guy just said, "Okay, what was your question?" Or, turning back to the press saying, "All right, well, anybody else have a question?"
Yeah, here's what the guy, I appreciate him turning it and doing that. And I'm actually not judging that piece, but this will be worth for everyone that's listening to this to just listen to this next sentence that I would have requested the poll person to say,
Yeah.
here's what I would have said. Listen, that gentleman is feeling furious because he really has a need for trust that we're counting all the votes here. And at this moment, because he walked away, he doesn't have his need for trust met. And as many people in the nation, we need to restore trust that me and my staff are making sure that his vote is being counted and everybody else's vote is being counted evenly. We are not here to take his voice away, even though he's feeling furious because he has the thought that his voice is being taken away. I want to give everybody here reassurance that his vote was counted, as well as all the people in this county. If they've registered and they've turned in their vote, we have counted it here. Next question.
Oh, my gosh, that would have been fantastic. And that would have helped an awful lot of people, a lot of citizens
Listeners
out there that are feeling doubt and skepticism over their votes being counted, or all the votes being properly counted. It would have helped to meet a lot of their needs for trust. It really would have. Now, so Bill, I want to make sure in this episode we do two more things in particular. One is when it comes, let's talk about the Biden campaign for a moment. While there are messages of unity, and there, Joe is definitely speaking like the adult in the room, more so than we've had from our leaders at the podium in the last 4 years. It's, that's nice. But what opportunity has he missed thus far? What could he do to make, his messages land better with half of America that didn't vote for him?
I think he steps into the recount. I think if I were advising Joe Biden right now, he steps into the recount messaging. Listen, if the president would like to recount the certain states that he would like to recount, I am so interested in having them recounted if he would like those. I am not fearful of the vote. I have trust in the people that counted the vote. He doesn't. He's struggling with trust right now. And I want to make sure that the president, as an American citizen, as well as all the people that follow him, have trust in the vote. I would request the governors of Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Arizona to recount all their votes. That'd be my request right now, because you know what? He seems like he feels scared and worried and anxious, and he needs reassurance. And if he's one American that needs reassurance, there's 70 million other Americans that need the same level of reassurance about our campaigns and our counting. I would request that those votes are to be recounted and make sure that they're certified. Why? Because our votes count. Now, if he came out and said that, the oxygen would get sucked out of the room very quickly.
That's exactly what I was thinking. In my mind, my cliche was, wow, that would really take the wind out of the president's sails on this whole doubt and skepticism campaign in our election system.
Yeah. This is the amount of votes in this county that you lost by. Here's what happened in Detroit. This Detroit area has been certified. Why? Because if this person didn't certify, they would go to jail. And then I would parade out all the different people that are in charge and put a face on the poll workers, put a face on the election officials. Let those people speak. Hey, this is what my job is. This is what I do. This is how I work it. I've been doing it for 17 years. We at our facility have this is the group of people that we have as poll watchers over here. And here's the group that we have as poll watchers over here. These poll watchers are in charge of the Republican count. This group of is in charge of the Democratic counts, because in the distant past, 50 years ago, we had problems with this, but we haven't had problems like this. And we even got better after 2000. We got better. You know, I mean, you have a lot of different ways to step into this.
Sure. That would really be good.
That's right.
Boy,
that's right. You got to claim the space.
Somebody in the president-elect's communication team needs to get some skills so that these messages are served up to him, because I'm sure Joe would be very happy to communicate in that way. It's really his style.
It's his style.
You know?
It's his style. It's right in his wheelhouse. And from our chart, you know, that, you know, Tom, I know that you're going to post from our chart. Yeah. It puts the president and a future president in the position of observation and evaluation, because it's saying we are going to observe and we are going to evaluate the president's claim. We're not going to just hearsay it. We are going to say it. And who does he want to watch? Does he want Rudy Giuliani to watch? Does he want him and his teams to watch? Is that what he'd like? And of course, you know, they don't have there's one thing to be vigilant about something. They do not have the tenacity and the stick-to-itiveness to do this level of truth searching. But if Joe Biden were to step in and claim the space of truth with observational, empathetic, and evaluation style language, what winds up happening is the air gets sucked out of the room, because all the judgments of right or wrong, all the labels and diagnosis that box in a person's belief structure, all the languages of criticism and blame and shame, of, you know, my way is right and you should have known, and you know, that what's wrong with you, and I'm a bad person or they're a bad person language, all that stuff you can't use, because it's like, I'm not a bad person. I gave you the key to the vault. You counted the number 2 and I counted the number 2. Would you like to count the number again? We can do this another time if you like. Now notice how gently I'm saying, if you like. You know, it's like, yeah, sure. You want to, you still don't have trust and reassurance? Would you like to talk to every person that voted? Sure. We can do that too. You know.
Well, that's very helpful. Thank you. I think it's helpful to see how Biden could already be communicating a little better, that not just say that he wants to bring the country more together, but actually through his words could actually bring the country closer together. Now, on the other side of this, you got the president who is casting doubt on the election, saying there's rampant fraud all over the place. And he's got his legal team, you know, I guess, challenging it in different states. And that messaging, while he's casting a lot of doubt, is also falling short. And there's a very interesting article, which I'm going to post in the blog post for our listeners, from the AmericanConservative.com, that actually is, you know, written by a Republican who is saying that, you know, well, you know, for a president who for months has been talking about, you know, that the election is going to be fraught with fraud, basically they're saying he hasn't put together a really good legal team and a strong coordinated effort to go and challenge it. Now, it's striking me as I'm saying this, Bill, that I'm talking about somebody writing about the facts about what he's doing to fight it.
Great catch. That's right.
And not about what Trump really cares about, and is much less the facts. Although if he wants to remain in the White House, he needs to care about the facts, because the facts are not going to support him staying there. But he's more just cares about casting doubt and riling up his base to be supportive of him in calling this an illegitimate election than he is actually pursuing the truth of were the votes properly cast.
It's easier to cast doubt and skepticism at systems that you don't understand. And one of the things that Trump has done brilliantly and tragically, both at the same time, has cast doubts into systems that people don't know very much about. You don't know what does it take to count votes in a state? The civic engagement is not high. We don't know. I don't know how many poll workers it takes to count all the votes in California. How many poll workers does it take? How does that system work? And that entire is a complete vacuum in my mind about what does it take to do that. I'm not paying attention to that. And he's taken advantage of that with his voters by saying, you don't know what those people are doing over there. And the answer is, you're right. I don't know what those people are doing over there. And as Americans, I'm extending trust that they are doing something. But wait a minute, you can't trust that because there's bad people doing bad things in Philadelphia. I'm going like, the last time I was in Philadelphia, it's a city. And I was there 20 years ago when it was in a decline and blah, 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 blah. And it was very scary there. It's like, oh my God, none of that is true. None of that is really, it's like he fills in and he uses the person's blank creativity to write an imaginary story, planting a seed on the person's brain. And it's upsetting, but, and it doesn't mean that visionary people aren't to do that. Imagine what it'll be like. Let's go to the moon by the end of the decade. The scientists are looking around going like, we're not even close to that. But that's the opposite of it. You set a compelling vision that grabs the imagination, and then you start doing it. And then you do some test rockets and you blow a couple of things up. A couple of people even die on the process of doing it, but you still forge ahead to put a person on the moon. That's kind of significant. And think of all the satellites that are up there and the cell phones that are using them. And, it's like, it's a bit much. So really, really powerful stuff. So the next time, Tom, when we do this is I'd like to take this levels of truth out for a spin, because we need the levels of truth to message ourselves into a nation of restoration. I mean, that's real. We got to really look at this, because otherwise, and start pulling the weeds out of our collective consciousness. Some of these thought patterns have got to come out.
I agree, Bill, because we've got to get to a point where we're talking with each other and in a restorative way and not past each other. Really. Yeah. It's because that is not going to be very helpful. Okay. Well, thanks so much, Bill. It was a great one today.
Lots of fun. All right. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.